On August 18th, 1590, John White, governor of the Roanoke colony, stepped onto the sandy shores of Roanoke Island, his heart heavy with a mixture of hope and profound dread. 3 agonizing years had passed since he had last seen his daughter, Eleanor Dare, his granddaughter, Virginia Dare, and over 100 English colonists, whom he had left to return to England for essential supplies. Now, on what would have been Virginia Dare's 3rd birthday, the settlement he had helped establish stood eerily silent, devoid of any sign of human life or activity. The defensive palisade, once a robust symbol of protection against the unfamiliar wilderness and its potential dangers, stood partially collapsed, its wooden timbers weathered and grey, succumbing to the relentless elements of wind, rain, and sun over time. The houses that had once sheltered the colonists were entirely gone, either systematically dismantled by human hands or fallen into complete ruin, leaving behind only the ghost of a once aspiring community. The silence was absolute, broken only by the sounds of the natural world, such as the distant cry of seabirds or the rustle of leaves, a stark and unsettling contrast to the bustling life he had expected to find, the sounds of children playing, or the everyday work of a nascent settlement. White's steps were slow and deliberate as he moved through the deserted site, his eyes meticulously scanning every detail for any clue, any indication of what might have transpired. Before his departure 3 years prior, he had left the colonists with a clear and vital instruction, a pre-arranged signal for their potential relocation. If they were compelled to move from the settlement, they were to carve the name of their new destination into a prominent tree or a sturdy post. Critically, a cross carved above the name would serve as a dire signal, signifying that they had moved under duress or distress, perhaps due to attack by hostile tribes, the ravages of famine, or the spread of disease. As he meticulously searched the desolated area, a chilling yet potentially hopeful discovery emerged. Carved into one of the remaining palisade posts, in clear, bold, and unmistakable capital letters, was the single word, Croatoan. Nearby, on a tree at the edge of the former settlement, he found the letters CRO, similarly carved, suggesting a partial or unfinished inscription, perhaps begun in haste. Crucially, and perhaps most significantly for White, there was no cross carved above either inscription, a detail he would cling to. This absence of a cross offered a fragile flicker of hope amidst the profound desolation and uncertainty that enveloped him. It strongly suggested to White that the colonists had not been in immediate danger or under attack when they departed their settlement. He interpreted Croatoan as a direct reference to Croatoan Island, a nearby landmass now known as Hatteras Island, which was the ancestral home of the friendly Croatoan Native American tribe. Manteo, one of the 2 Native Americans who had travelled to England with an earlier expedition and had been baptized into the Church of England, was a prominent member of this tribe and had been a valuable ally and intermediary to the English settlers. The implication, as White understood it, was that the colonists had sought refuge, or perhaps even assimilation, with Manteo's people, moving to live among them rather than perishing alone at Roanoke. This theory, born of a single word and the absence of a cross, became the prevailing narrative for centuries. John White's journey back to Roanoke had been fraught with numerous and agonizing delays, each one amplifying the urgency of his mission and his personal anguish. The entire Roanoke venture was initially spearheaded by Sir Walter Raleigh, a wealthy courtier, explorer, and a particular favourite of Queen Elizabeth I, who had received the patent to establish the first English colony in North America. Raleigh, a visionary but often absent patron, had initially dispatched exploratory expeditions in 1584 to survey the North American coastline for suitable settlement sites. These early voyages, led by experienced navigators Philip Amadas and Arthur Barlow, had identified Roanoke Island, situated off the coast of present-day North Carolina, as a promising location due to its sheltered sounds, perceived strategic position, and the seemingly amicable nature of the local inhabitants, at least initially. This led to the establishment of a first military colony in 1585, commanded by Sir Richard Grenville and later by Ralph Lane. This initial attempt, however, had been abandoned in 1586, largely due to escalating hostilities with the local Socotan people, a paramount chiefdom of Algonquian-speaking Native Americans who controlled the mainland, and a persistent struggle for food independence and self-sufficiency, forcing the English to rely heavily on Native American supplies, which eventually led to conflict. Raleigh's vision for the New World shifted significantly in 1587, evolving from a military outpost to a more ambitious and permanent agricultural settlement intended to be a true English foothold and a self-sustaining community in North America. This new group comprised 117 men, women, and children, a diverse cross-section of English society, including artisans, farmers, and families, intended to create a lasting presence. John White, an experienced artist, cartographer, and a veteran of the 1585 expedition, was appointed as their governor, tasked with leading this civilian venture and ensuring its success. Their intended destination, as per Raleigh's explicit instructions, was the Chesapeake Bay area, a location significantly to the north of Roanoke, chosen for its more promising deep-water harbours, fertile lands, and abundant natural resources, offering a far better prospect for long-term survival and prosperity than the already troubled Roanoke site. However, a critical and ultimately fateful change of plans occurred, one that would dramatically alter the colony's trajectory and perhaps seal its doom. The pilot of the expedition's flagship, the Lion, was Simon Fernandez, a Portuguese navigator known for his skills but also for a complex and often controversial reputation, having been accused of piracy in the past and possessing a fiercely independent streak. Fernandez unexpectedly, and against White's vehement protests and pleas, put the colonists ashore on Roanoke Island, rather than continuing north to the Chesapeake Bay. The precise reasons for this deviation remain a subject of intense historical debate. Some theories suggest Fernandez was under secret orders from Raleigh to establish the colony at Roanoke, perhaps due to intelligence about Spanish movements, while others posit that he simply wished to return to privateering activities and did not want to spend more time ferrying settlers. Regardless of the true motive, this decision left the settlers in a less secure and less provisioned location than planned, a site already known for its difficulties and strained relations with local tribes. It was here, on Roanoke Island, that White's daughter, Eleanor Dare, gave birth to Virginia Dare, the first English child born in the Americas, on August 18, 1587, a poignant moment amidst the growing uncertainty and the colony's precarious beginnings. Just 10 days after his granddaughter's birth, and recognizing the colony's increasingly precarious position and urgent need for additional supplies, fresh colonists, and military reinforcements, John White departed for England. He promised to return swiftly, within a few months, with everything necessary to ensure the colony's survival and growth. Yet the unfolding geopolitical landscape of Europe intervened in a catastrophic way, a force far beyond White's control. The Anglo-Spanish War, a protracted and bitter conflict between England and Spain, intensified dramatically. The might of the Spanish Armada, a massive fleet assembled by King Philip II of Spain, threatened a full-scale invasion of England, aiming to depose Queen Elizabeth and re-establish Catholicism. In response, every available English ship, including those that would have been used for White's return voyage, was pressed into service for national defence, forming a crucial part of the English fleet. White himself, a skilled navigator, found himself unable to secure passage back across the Atlantic. His return was delayed not for months, but for 3 agonizing years, years that, unbeknownst to him, sealed the tragic fate of the Roanoke colonists, leaving them isolated and vulnerable. The English victory over the Armada in 1588 was a national triumph, celebrated across the country, but for the Roanoke settlers, it meant prolonged isolation and eventual disappearance. Upon his eventual return in 1590, after discovering the Croatoan carving and the partial CRO inscription, White, still clinging to the hope that his family and the colonists were alive, made strenuous efforts to reach Croatoan Island. He chartered a small boat and attempted to navigate the treacherous shoals and inlets separating Roanoke from Hatteras, a journey made perilous by shifting sands and unpredictable currents. However, a powerful and sudden storm arose, battering his ship and making passage to Croatoan Island impossible and exceedingly dangerous. The storm not only prevented him from reaching his intended destination, but also caused significant damage to his vessel and crew, jeopardizing their very lives. Faced with mounting peril, diminishing supplies, and the onset of the hurricane season, White's ship was ultimately compelled to abandon the search and return to England, a decision that must have been excruciating for him, leaving the fate of the colonists an unresolved and profound mystery. The lack of a distress symbol, combined with the carved word Croatoan, continued to fuel the primary theory that the colonists had integrated with the Croatoan tribe, a theory that offered a glimmer of solace to White in his despair, allowing him to believe his family might still be alive. This assimilation theory suggests a gradual merging of the English colonists into the Croatoan tribal society, perhaps driven by sheer necessity and the urgent need for survival in an unfamiliar and often harsh environment. The English colonists, facing dwindling supplies, an unfamiliar and often hostile environment, and the isolation caused by White's delayed return, might have sought the assistance and protection of the friendly Croatoan people, who had demonstrated a willingness to engage with the English. Over time, as a matter of adaptation and survival, they could have adopted Native American customs, language, and ways of life, effectively merging into the tribe through intermarriage or adoption into existing families. This would provide a compelling explanation for the complete absence of any English remains, artifacts, or burial sites at the original Roanoke settlement site, as they would have taken their essential belongings and perhaps even their dead with them to their new home among the Croatoan. Such a merger would have rendered them indistinguishable from their new kin to any subsequent European explorers who might have passed through the area, making their disappearance a transformation rather than an obliteration or a violent end. Another prominent theory posits that the colonists faced a more violent and tragic end. They might have been attacked by other Native American tribes, possibly the Croatoan, with whom the earlier English colony of 1585-86 had experienced significant and escalating conflict. The Croatoan, whose territory encompassed the mainland opposite Roanoke Island, may have viewed the English as an encroaching threat to their lands, resources, and sovereignty, leading to a massacre or the capture and enslavement of the settlers. Oral traditions among some Native American groups in the region, recorded centuries later, speak of fair-skinned people living among them, but also of violent encounters that could have led to their demise. The Spanish, who also had significant colonial ambitions and a strong presence in the New World, particularly in Florida, represent another potential aggressor. Spanish patrols occasionally ventured north, and while there is no direct conclusive evidence of a Spanish attack on Roanoke, their strategic interests and historical animosity towards the English, coupled with their desire to eliminate rival European settlements, make them a plausible, though less likely, candidate for the colonists' demise. Famine and disease represent further grim possibilities, often intertwined with the harsh realities of frontier life and the challenges of establishing a new settlement. The colonists were largely reliant on their own agricultural efforts for sustenance, supplemented by occasional trade or foraging in an unfamiliar landscape. A poor harvest due to adverse weather conditions, an extended drought, or the introduction of a virulent European disease, such as influenza or smallpox, against which Native Americans had no immunity and which could have spread rapidly through the close-knit community, could have decimated their numbers. Such pressures would have left too few able-bodied individuals to maintain the settlement, defend themselves, or even to leave a more detailed message than Croatoan. The early years of colonial attempts in North America were notoriously brutal, and many settlements, both English and other European, succumbed to such pressures, often vanishing without a trace, leaving only archaeological remnants to tell their story of hardship and failure. The Dare Stones controversy introduced another layer of intrigue and complexity in the 20th century, briefly capturing public imagination and offering a dramatic, albeit ultimately false, solution. In the 1930s, a series of inscribed stones, purportedly found in various locations in North Carolina, claimed to bear messages from Eleanor Dare, Virginia Dare's mother. These inscriptions detailed the colonists' desperate journey inland after leaving Roanoke, their encounters with various Native American tribes, and their eventual demise at the hands of hostile indigenous groups. The stones were initially met with widespread enthusiasm, offering a dramatic and seemingly conclusive narrative to the long-standing mystery. However, meticulous linguistic and geological analyses, coupled with inconsistencies in the discovery accounts and the suspicious timing of their appearance, later largely discredited these stones as an elaborate hoax, though they continue to be a fascinating footnote in the Roanoke narrative, illustrating the enduring human desire for definitive answers to historical enigmas, even when those answers prove to be fabricated. Modern archaeological endeavors continue to meticulously seek answers, employing advanced techniques and interdisciplinary approaches to piece together the fragments of the past. One significant area of focus has been what is known as Site X, located on the mainland, approximately 50 miles west of Roanoke Island, in what is now Bertie County, North Carolina. This site, identified through careful re-examination of clues on John White's own 1585 map of the region, which showed a fortified village symbol inland from the coast, has yielded compelling evidence of English presence. Excavations at Site X have uncovered 16th century English pottery fragments, including shards of borderware and other utilitarian ceramics, as well as flintlock gun parts, copper artifacts, and other tools, suggesting that some colonists may have indeed moved inland, perhaps seeking better resources, more fertile land for farming, or attempting to finally reach the more desirable Chesapeake Bay area as originally intended. The presence of these artifacts indicates a sustained English occupation, not merely a transient visit or a brief trading encounter. More recent archaeological digs on Hatteras Island, the ancestral home of the Croatoan people, have also provided compelling and increasingly persuasive evidence supporting the assimilation theory. Researchers, working in collaboration with descendants of the Croatoan, now Lumbee, and other related tribes, have unearthed a significant number of 16th century English artifacts from Native American contexts, including fragments of pottery, glass, tools, and even hammer scale, a byproduct of blacksmithing. The presence of hammer scale is particularly significant, as it indicates sustained activity by skilled English artisans, suggesting that English blacksmiths were practicing their trade on Hatteras Island, likely alongside or for the Croatoan tribe, sharing their valuable skills. These findings suggest that English colonists may have lived alongside the Croatoan tribe for an extended period, perhaps for decades, sharing their lives, skills, and culture in a long-term cohabitation. The artifacts are found in contexts that indicate peaceful cohabitation and cultural exchange, rather than conflict, painting a picture of integration. The discovery of English artifacts within Native American cultural contexts does not definitively solve the mystery of every single colonist, but it offers a tangible and powerful link, shifting the narrative from a simple disappearance to a more complex process of cultural interaction and adaptation. It paints a picture not of a violent, abrupt disappearance, but of a potential merging of cultures, a form of survival through adaptation and mutual reliance. The English, in their desperate struggle for survival in an alien land, may have become the lost colonists, not by perishing entirely, but by becoming something new entirely, by integrating so fully into Native American society that they became indistinguishable from their Native American hosts to later European explorers. Their English identity, over generations, would have slowly faded, replaced by that of their adopted kin, a profound transformation. This transformation, while certainly not the outcome Sir Walter Raleigh envisioned for his English colony, represents a unique and complex chapter in the history of early American settlement, highlighting the fluidity of identity in the face of survival. The enduring mystery of Roanoke continues to fascinate historians, archaeologists, and the public alike, almost 400 years after White's return. It serves as a stark and poignant reminder of the immense perils faced by early European settlers in the Americas, the fragility of their endeavors, and the complex, often challenging, interactions between vastly different cultures. The vanished 1 in 15 souls, including the iconic figure of Virginia Dare, the first English child born in the New World, remain a poignant symbol of the unknown, their ultimate fate etched into the silent, empty landscape of Roanoke Island and the enigmatic word Croatoan. The story of Roanoke is not just a tale of loss and failure, but a powerful narrative of adaptation, survival, and the profound, often hidden, ways in which early American history was shaped by cultural encounters and the unexpected paths humanity takes when confronted with the unknown.